Welcome to the ThunderCast, your Marshall Athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and KD Hudnall. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here. The ThunderCast is on the loose. Thanks for downloading another episode of the ThunderCast. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderCast_pod. I'd like to continually point all you guys and gals over to thecollegehuddle.com. It's a great place to catch up on all of your favorite college football teams. If you're not just a Herd fan, the largest fan-driven podcasting network on the planet, and we are really proud to be the Marshall reps for the College Huddle. So check them out. If there's a opponent coming up for the Herd that you might think will feature, do a preview like we're doing for Western Michigan, maybe there's a Western Michigan pod that's doing one for the Herd. And oftentimes we'll have, some guests from time to time, just like we did for this Ohio State game, which we'll recap here in a minute. But Russ, let's get into everything here. We've got a game to recap, a big one at the Horseshoe, which was a pretty cool game in some facets, not really great on the scoreboard, but I think we saw some things, some fans saw some things, coaches probably saw some things that they liked about this team. So let's get into all that with a quick word from our sponsors at 304carwreck.com.
If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Find them at 304carwreck.com.
All right. Well, before we get into a recap, we've got, of course, some things that we've got to talk about because it's, a busy week like normal this time of year in Herd Athletics. So how about giving me 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week?
Let's double it up and have 10 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite Link, the Tri-State's premier IT management team. Number 1, men's soccer back up to a 7th ranking in the United Coaches ranking.
Yeah, felt pretty good about that one, right?
Also, West Virginia's 6th and James Madison 10th.
I saw that. 3 in the top 10, but it feels good to edge off of that number 10 spot, getting a little bit of a buffer zone in there to keep that top 10 streak going along. I don't think we're in really kind of any danger, I don't feel like, of that ending anytime soon because now the season really counts. You're talking about opening SBC play. It's kind of do or die now. You got to win these. You don't have much margin for error. I think if you're going to have any margin for error at all, it's going to be to lose to one of the other top teams in the conference because, even though that equals tiebreakers, it still keeps the strength of schedule strong, But still, we're not worrying about that. We're talking about doing some serious damage here. Love being back up closer to the top 5 side of things rather than, down there around 10. Picked up another win tonight. I wasn't able to obviously go to the game. I hope we were able to give away our tickets to the game.
We were.
Good. So Herd men's soccer back on track, it feels like.
Yeah, and what is good about us pointing out West Virginia 6th, James Madison 10th, if they hover around that area and we get a victory and a decisive victory over both of those teams, it's really going to help with that postseason seeding. Next Friday, we play James Madison. So all goes well, should be a top 10 matchup on both sides. So a lot to look forward to. Yeah.
Now refresh my memory. Is that one here or is that one going to be in Harrisonburg?
Man, I think that it's here as it is not happening this week. I don't have it on my notes.
Okay.
But
see if I can
we'll have that for you in just a second. Number 2 stays with men's soccer as Alexander Sterngard is the Sun Belt Conference Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, pretty cool, man. Nice to get an of the week here because felt like we needed to get one of those bad boys going on again. It had been getting a little stale for some reason. Don't really like to go too long between those types of things, and it was nice to get one, again.
Mm-hmm. Do you have that matchup for us?
I think I do. It says It says versus James Madison, so I'm assuming that's going to
That's
be at the
home.
Vet.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, it is at the Vet on October the 4th. So I know we might talk about this coming up, but now you're talking about Hoops in Huntington on the 3rd, big soccer game on the 4th. That also says here on the Herd Zone app that's senior night and alumni night. So you might have some cool attendees at that one as well. Also, just wanted to back up real quick and talk about that VCU game just real fast since I mentioned it a minute ago. That's a top 25 VCU team. I didn't know that. They were number 22.
22nd. Yeah.
22 going into that. So cool. Another good win for the Herd on the resume.
Yep. We got more to talk about that later. Number 3, Kylie Maston is also an of the week. She got the Sun Belt Conference Runner of the Week.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody that listens to our show now that hears anything to have to do with track and field is ever going to be surprised when you see that name at the top of the hill, not only for the Herd, but in the Sun Belt Conference, right?
Yeah.
And the season is young, man. You know, we've got a lot more that we'll be mentioning big time, I'm sure. But great for her to get in of the week too, man.
Number 4, Christian Spears has been named to the NCAA Committee on Infractions.
It's all I could do to refrain from the you got to nail these big schools now, man. You gotta win one for the home team, please. Like, let's make sure they're playing as fairly as you possibly can, because, well, I guess we'll talk about a little bit in the football recap. We know that's not always the case, whether it's the team or the second team that you're playing in a game, the referees. There's a lot to lose. There's a lot of money on the lines in these big games, and it's hard to keep the big boys playing on the right side of the ball all the time. So, and it always seems like they get a slap on the wrist, and teams like Marshall get the freaking death penalty when it comes to the same infraction. And I just, I could go off about that. Could be a whole other show. And I don't.
Could you imagine? And it's not done yet, but could you imagine the level of what happened with the Michigan guy going on to, if that was from Marshall, or if that was from Coastal Carolina, or if that was from ECU, or you know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Going on there and just had a parent cheating at the levels that they did, and nothing's been done about it yet. And they would have canceled our volleyball team.
And even if something ever does happen, it'll be so far removed. And that's what I don't like about things like that, is because now you're affecting kids that were maybe in middle school when this stuff actually happened. And now they've worked and gotten to the college age. And now it's their time to compete and shine. And you're going to penalize them for something they had nothing to do with, which that's what I'm saying. I'll never get behind these, 5, 6, 7 years later, we're going to hand down some infractions. No, man, it's got to be, it can't be aimed at hurting a present player, but I don't know what you do, right? Because sometimes it takes that long to get to the bottom of some of these things. But again, I could talk about this and talk about this. But I don't think, anybody's ever going to listen to me, right? Because I'm just a dipshit with a podcasting mic, but still.
I co-sign that.
Yeah, I do think that it is obviously glaringly unfair, though, the way that punishments are handed down for the same infractions. It really is. Sure. And even if you just think of, like, if you find, let's say, if you find Marshall $1 million, I know that's not really what they do, but let's say you find them $1 million. Well, and then you find, since we're talking about Michigan $1 million. That is not the same punishment at all. That is not nearly the same punishment. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, it's got to hurt equally bad. You got to be talking about tens of millions of dollars if you're going to punish someone like that, if it were just a monetary figure. But anyway.
Number 5, Peyton Neal and Audrey Gear named to the UNCG all-tournament team for volleyball.
Oh, so they have a vendetta against Bryn. I get it. I see how it is, trying to end the streak. But Good for Peyton though, and I saw another. I don't know if I'm sure you have this, but I saw she hit a milestone. Yeah, she hit a milestone. Bryn hit a milestone. This is cool. I hate to ruin your things, but when we talk about these things, maybe we ought to like lump them together.
Well, it's number 6, so I was leading into it.
Okay.
Number 6, couple of milestones for some volleyball players. Bryn Brown got her 2,000th assist. Peyton Neal, her 500th dig.
Yeah, dig it, man. That's pretty cool. You don't get 2,000 assists by accident. You don't get 500. What do you say? Kills? Digs. 500 digs this early in your career by accident. You know what I mean? These are some great volleyball players that I think so much of the Herd fan base is just missing out on. Mm-hmm. You know, and I know we preach it all the time to go to these games and check them out, and it's really cheap to go, and it really is. And I also sat here knowing that I don't go to these games, but I don't live in Huntington. You know, I would probably go to far more because I've been and it was fun, you know, but it's just not economical for me or most folks to drive 3 hours or 2.5 hours to watch an hour and a half volleyball game and go back. But I'm saying if you're in Huntington and you're close, I mean, and you're like, man, what a boring week. We don't have anything on our schedule. Yeah, you do, man. Like that. They're fun to watch. I would please go watch them.
Let's talk briefly about that number 2,000 because, you know, people listening to this, they may say 3,000 hits. I know that's a lot of hits. You get in the Hall of Fame when you get 3,000 hits. They listen to a college volleyball stat, myself included. I don't know where that ranks, you know, on a national level or a school level or something like that. But let's just talk about that number because we see a number when she hits a triple-double, and earlier she had like 21 assists during an entire, 4-match, 5-match, however many it was. And that was perceived as a large number. Mm-hmm. So let's say you get only 10. That's 200 different matches that you have to get 10, which is a decent amount. So just to put this in context, 2,000 of anything is going to be a huge, huge number to get. That shows that you've been at a great level for your entire career.
Yeah, and this is a lot like other records that we talk about, like with Elmore and the scoring record, and then Kinsey and that scoring record. You have to stay healthy. You have to be able to compete, and then you have to compete at
a good level.
This type of level every time you hit the floor. Time you hit the floor. So these records are not just about performance. It's also about doing the right stuff in the off season, in the weight room, staying healthy, like rehabbing. That's what the lifestyle of a college athlete is, or really any athlete. If you care about your craft, you're taking care of your body. Because how easy is it to just land wrong or go a little too hard and you kind of run into something? It would be easy to crash into the the scorer's table or something like that. And it's like, dang, man, I might have to, I'm done for the day now. But not Bryn. She's a warrior, man, out there still doing it. Not done yet. We're out here talking like one of the greats of all time, and our career's over. She's got most of a season left to go. So how high can she get? This will be the count, man. Maybe we'll have to do the countdown. I don't know. We'll have to dig into some volleyball records and see if there's records or some where she could theoretically end up.
Number 7, softball will be a part of the Leadoff Classic in Clearwater, Florida, February the 6th through the 9th. They'll face Texas Tech, Southern Miss, Missouri, Iowa, and Morgan State.
Yeah, about that. Very cool. Good for them. They're going to play some really good Sun Belt teams. Are going to get some early action, like SBC action. I don't. Those obviously can't count in the standings, I wouldn't think. But since they're like tournaments, but Clearwater, man, really. I've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Here we were, 40 minutes, 45 minutes from Clearwater for 7 years and couldn't get them down there. And I tweeted this, and the women's basketball is going to Orlando and softball is coming to Clearwater like in the same year. And here we are in Louisville. I'm going to need y'all to get some Louisville schools heavy on the rotation here in some of these sports, because that'd be pretty nice. But
I'm sure we're going to play Bellarmine. We play
it
them.
seems like everything. It seems everything, but.
I'm curious why you said you don't think that they'll count in the standings,
because it's a preseason tournament or an early season. I'm just curious. That's why I'm asking.
Well, we played down in Florida at the beginning of the year last year,
mm-hmm.
And that's how we started our season. I think these are regular season games.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but they might count in your overall record. But I'm saying is this because it's a tournament? It doesn't count in the conference standings. That's what I'm asking.
You mean just Southern Miss?
Yeah, you said Texas State too, didn't you?
No, I said Texas Tech.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said Texas State and Southern Miss.
No, Southern Miss, I'm assuming it's a non-conference. You're just playing them early in the season. But this should be regular season games.
That for sure, it counts.
Yeah.
I just meant, did it count in the SBC standings? Surely it wouldn't.
No, it won't, because it's not conference.
Yeah.
All right, I'm on the same page with you now. Number 8, softball, keeping it with them, will have its second annual home run derby, and that'll be Saturday, October the 12th at noon.
Ooh, okay. So you got a little time. We got in on this last year, and it was pretty cool. We tried to involve our followers to, give them a vote on who we should sponsor. And we sponsored a couple of players, I believe, or I think we sponsored Morgan and a player.
Riley, I think.
I think it was Riley, as a matter of fact. And obviously, we're going to get involved in that again because it's very cool, very cool. So you should go to go to Herd Zone or go over wherever that link is and sign up for that, because it's very cheap to get involved with that, and it's a fundraiser for the softball program. So it's a cool way to do that. Last year was the first one that they did, and Morgan sees that as a good opportunity to raise a little money, have a little fun. And I agree with that. I think it's a great event. And I'm looking forward to being part of that again. I don't know exactly how we'll decide who we want to throw our support behind. Maybe Russ and I will just decide ourselves, or maybe we'll have a poll. I don't know. But either way, we will get involved with that again, because we love Herd softball, and, they deserve all the support that everybody else gets. So get involved with that. It's a couple of bucks, man, like 10 or 15 bucks and call it a day. That's money well spent for a sport that's provided us so much enjoyment for free. You don't even buy a ticket to go there. So it's free. It has been anyway. So it's a good fundraiser.
Yeah. And this has nothing to do with martial athletics, but Chili Fest is that morning. Ooh. So there's going to be a lot of people downtown anyway. Why don't you take a little break and go up to the Dot after you've had some morning chili? Go up there, support the people. I went last time. It was an amazing event to go and watch. Greg Bills got in, took some swings and everything.
I remember
they said they're going to have some celebrity people involved, and it's just going to be nice. It's going to be a fun time. I think they'll build on it from last year.
So I wonder. Let's speculate just for a second. Who do you think some of those, celebrity things might be? You think they're going to get Christian out there taking hacks? You think it's going to be some well-known softball alums? What do you think?
I don't know. Maybe you'll see Russ Livingood out there.
No, I doubt that.
Really? What? Okay. We'll see. We'll see. I do have a famous home run that, only went 701 feet, but whatever. All right. Number 9, fall ball schedule has been released for baseball. The games start, the first one's 10-6, and it goes through October 19th. They have 3 different matchups there for green and white, kind of going against each other on those last 3 days. All those are over on Herd Zone. There's only one game that will be away. Everything else is going to be at the Jack. And what I want to throw in here, too, is Coach Bills put on Twitter that this Saturday, as well as next Saturday, homecoming, they are going to be doing scrimmages at the Jack at noon, and the gates will be open, so you can tailgate over there and watch a little bit of Marshall baseball scrimmaging each other, and then go back over to the stadium for football.
That sounds cool, man. That might be something cool to check out just for a hot minute. That's a little bit of a lengthy walk from our spot in the C lot, but man, if you're on that side of the stadium,
if you're at the softball lot, if you're at State Electric, I mean, you're going to be right there.
Yeah, even if you're at TikTok or in that area, dude, that's pretty cool. That's
let's go a step
walk.
further. Somebody that doesn't have a spot and they're just looking to go somewhere, take you some pepperoni rolls and your favorite drink, go over to the Jack, watch a little bit, then walk on over and find you a tailgate spot right before the game.
Yeah, no doubt. That's pretty cool, man. If my cousin tailgates over on that side, he kind of tailgates between TikTok and there's something else. It's on the side of TikTok and there's another building. There's like a little gravel lot right there.
Yeah.
And that's where Jason's at. And I always try to go over and see Jason and Jess and them. And whenever I get to go to a game, but man, they're right there. Like duck right out the home opener. We went there and I took my son over to say hi to him or whatever. And he hadn't seen the baseball field. And I was like, well, heck, let's just, shoot out the back. And I saw him, showed him the Jack and everything. I showed him, he wanted to see the brick that I bought for my father-in-law and everything. And that was pretty cool. And see, that's really close, man. What a good idea. Catch a little baseball for free, tailgate.
Mm-hmm.
Way to go, man. Good one.
Yeah. And number 10, our final thing is kickoff has been set for the homecoming game versus App State. It is 3:30 p.m. Make your plans now.
Not surprising. Homecoming is generally, I don't want to say generally, but from what I remember most of the time is usually a 3:30 kickoff because there are so many alumni events and stuff in the evening and other organizations. So that's not surprising. That really is about the kickoff to the 3:30 time slot, at least historically what I remember, except for these early games here. This one coming up against Western Michigan's 3:30, and I just wish that was 7, but I get it, whatever. But yeah, I think that one's going to be a good one, man. I think that homecoming against App is going to be a really well-attended game. So many Southern Conference era alumni are going to be, if they're coming back for one game and it's going to be homecoming and they're like, oh man, it's App State. It's just like double whammy. I love it. So I think that'll be a really well-attended game. And a side note, who the heck saw App State getting throttled by South Alabama? I didn't see that one coming. Holy moly, they got throttled. But anyway. I digress.
Well, that does it for our this week 10 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite Link.
Well, I want to tell you something. Let's circle back real quick to Bryn Brown and the 2,000 assists. As we were talking, I was bringing up the volleyball record book.
Oh, good.
And I would like you to know that Bryn is now only the 6th all-time player to eclipse the 2,000 career assist mark. Next on the list would put her in the top 5. If she gets to 2,106, she would move into the top 5. And then it's a huge leap to get inside the top 4. She would have to go to 4,893 to get inside the top 4. Huge leap. Number one all time, by the way, is Katie Stein from 2002 to 2005 with 5,888 career assists. Holy crap, that's a lot. Wow.
I'm doing some math, and I'm going to say she's going to come up short.
I think so. The top 3 are all over 5,200, by the way. And Sammy Bain is number 4 with 4,892. So the top 4 are all just over 4,850. Wow. Yeah. That's pretty impressive. So, but still very impressive nonetheless. So Bryn is already in the top 6 all time. She's definitely got a chance to get into the top 5 all time, but still congratulations on freaking only being the 6th player ever with 2,000 career assists at Marshall University. That's awesome.
Sure is.
All right, so awesome things. Let's talk about a game that happened a while back, man. It was almost a week ago, but still, we've got to talk about Marshall and their trip to Ohio Stadium to play the Buckeyes of number 3 Buckeyes of Ohio State. It was a 49-14 loss. It's about where everybody thought it would kind of sort of be, so nothing earth-shatteringly shocking there. Herd dropped to 1-2 also in the preseason. Most folks had us at 1-2 at this point. So we are where we thought we would be. I'm backing off the cliff a little bit. Indicators, kind of surprising in some of these. Others, not so much. Total yards, 569 by Ohio State to Marshall's 264. Not very surprising. Time of possession, 36-15 for the Herd, 23-45 for the Buckeyes. So edge time of possession to Marshall. But the scary part is OSU put up 49 points in 23 minutes and 45 seconds. First downs was pretty close, 23-18 in the grand. That's pretty respectable, I feel like, against basically a developmental NFL defense that the Herd went up against. Third downs was pretty good, 7 of 17 for the Herd. That was 41%. 4 of 8 for the Buckeyes, though. So edge Buckeyes in third downs. Penalties, 8 for 52 for the Herd, 5 for 54 for the Buckeyes. So I don't know how you want to slice that one, Russ. I'm going edge Buckeyes for the number of penalties, but the Herd does edge in penalty yardage. Turnovers, 1-0. Edge Marshall. Marshall did not turn the ball over against the Buckeyes. How cool is that? Quick bullet points. The Herd opened the scoring 7-0 against Ohio State. The defense, I feel like, played pretty okay considering the opponent that they were going up against. And I think the special teams did really well. They went out there and got cheated out of a turnover, and something we'll talk about a little bit later. So all three phases of the game, taking into account who you were playing, I can't say I'm angry. And I've heard so many fans, and maybe you'll speak to this too, said that I heard offense really looked better than they did the week prior against Virginia Tech. So
it was almost night and day.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it before we get into players to look out for. Tell me about it, man. I mean, I know I don't want to get in so much of the trip and everything because I know it was awesome, and we've got a game to preview and all that stuff. And this one's almost a week old, but you can give me the highlights and for your trip to Columbus.
Yeah, I do want to talk about how we deservingly so talk about the bathrooms at the Joan and things like that. I have to tell you, man, the C deck in Ohio Stadium is not great. And it is steep. They're narrow steps. They're narrow seats. I don't mean width of like shoulder width and butt width. I'm talking about, back to knee.
Front to back?
Back to knee. They are very, very narrow. There were, I can't tell you, I mean, they were bringing in pallets and pallets of water, and they ran out of water. I mean, it was 93 degrees, and you're up there by the sun, in the C deck. People had to leave at halftime. People had to leave in the first quarter, second quarter, heat issues. They ran out of ice before the game up there. I went out, my wife and I, in the fourth quarter, and they have these little grab and go like coolers, freezer or stand up refrigerators. And you would just go in, grab what you want, go to the end, pay for it. We have those now at the Joan. I went out, and there was a guy out there, and he had turned the lights off for his, and this is in the fourth quarter, but nowhere near the end of the game. And he had turned the light off for his, and you could tell he was doing inventory. And I went up and I said, "Hey, is it too late to get 2 waters?" And there were like maybe 6 left or something. And he goes, "Yeah, they've already been counted." And he was still counting something else. And I was like, you can't deduct 2. I mean, we're dying out here.
What if I buy all 6, man?
I would have, there were $5 a piece. I would have spent $30 to not have to die, and it just, for as much as they make on the revenue and everything, they really need to do some upgrades and everything. So I get it. We do have to upgrade things, but we're talking about one of the elites of the elite in college football here. And they have a pretty crappy upper part of the stadium. So just keep that in perspective. Anybody that's watching, listening to this, and you haven't been to something like that, I'm not making an excuse for the troughs that we have in our bathroom. We seriously need to upgrade them, but we have a very good stadium bones wise. It needs some stuff. It needs some work, but it wasn't all cherries going to somewhere else. And I'll just say their parking is a little left to be desired too, because I had to walk 18 miles to get to the stadium. But,
Yeah, we knew. Well, we kind of knew that going in, but
yeah,
I guess having never been inside that stadium, right?
mm-hmm.
I would just assume that everything would be a little bit more polished, right?
Nope.
With the money, well, I'm just saying, with the money that they're demanding for tickets, what we learned it costs for tickets and things like that. Which, by the way, Herd fans, if you think a family 4-pack for season tickets is egregious, you don't want to know what it costs to go to get to obtain Ohio State season tickets. But anyway, I would just have expected. I wouldn't have expected everything to be tip top, but I would have expected everything to be a little bit more user friendly. You know what I mean? Like, you're cramming 100,000 people in there. Yeah. How the hell are you going to run out of ice before a game? Like, it's game day.
That's what I'm talking, man. They were bringing water in, but they're bringing water in that is hot. It's been sitting out all day, and it was 93 degrees. So, then they're throwing it in. All it's doing is melting whatever ice they have.
Yeah.
Or, putting it in their refrigeration and everything. The lines were ridiculously long up there, and the layout on the C deck concourse everyone was like a line going this way was interfering with people walking and trying to go through. And then they would stop and yell at everybody. It's like, hey, Red Cross, we're trying to bring a gurney through, and someone that's, had a sunstroke out there, and you can't get through, it's just, it's not something, there might be some Ohio State fans listening to this and say, well, it's not bad down on A or B or whatever. I don't know. I've been down there before. I don't know what it's like. The last time I was down on A or B was 14 years ago and then 20 years ago. So
yeah, it doesn't matter if it's not bad on A or B. There are people in C,
Yeah, and with the number of people that are in C up there to get to 107,000 capacity or whatever it is now, they're going to have some kind of problem up there with how steep the steps are and how narrow. I mean, so the steps being narrow tells you how narrow the bleachers are. Mm-hmm. And just the layout, you come out and you try to go up the steps and someone's trying to go down into the same place that you're coming out of. There's a lot of log jams, and one Ohio State fan couldn't find her seat. So, there was like a trail of 20 people behind her as she just stood there saying, what seat are you in? I mean, it's just, the layout sucks. If they're going to have $85 million coming in a season on their football revenue, they need to start putting some money back into their stadium.
Yeah. And the problem is, as long as they sell them all out, they don't have to.
That's right.
They don't have to. And the line of people to fill the seats of the people that say, I'm not going back, is almost infinitely long as well. So they don't, they have no sense of urgency to do any of that. And that kind of sucks.
The only reason I brought it up is a comparison to what we have. Yes, it's only 30,000 or a little bit more than that, but we do have a good structure in place. Yes, it could be done better. There are things in the pipeline that's going to make it better. But you go to an elite of an elite, and like you said, you would think it'd be nice. It's not.
Yeah, that's disappointing to learn about. But hey, you went to cheer on the Herd, and you were expecting a little bit of a better experience than you had, which sucks. And I'm sure a lot of folks felt the same way. But ultimately, it was about what happened on the field. And of course, the scoreboard, like I said, was not kind to the Herd. But there were some individual plays and players that really, I think, got on the radar a little bit for what they could do. I think some guys won over more fans this week. So let's talk about that. Stone Earl got the start again for the third consecutive game, played the lion's share of the downs. 16 of 21 on the day, 132 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He was only sacked 1 time. Shout out Herd O-line for that one. 12 carries for another 23 yards. A.J. Turner, 7 carries for 32 yards, a 4.6 yard per carry. Ethan Payne, 9 for 31, 3.4 yards per carry. He did add the 1 yard touchdown. Elijah Metcalf was your leader on the receiving end of it. 8 receptions, 68 yards, and a beauty of a touchdown in the back of the end zone. Long of 23 on the day for Elijah. Braylon Brown added 3 for 29. And Fitz had 2 catches for 27 yards. Second game in a row, he's had a grown-ass man catch.
Yep.
Because even though it wasn't some huge play, my God, that was a grown-ass man catch.
Yeah, that's right.
But that's the kind of stuff that you love to see. So bullet points for me in this one. The Herd offense scored twice on the Ohio State defense, the first team to do that all year. Not only score first team, but scored twice. So pretty impressive. They looked better overall than against Virginia Tech, which I mentioned a couple of times. No turnovers. That was a big one. Stone Earl did fumble once, but he was able to recover that, or the Herd was able to recover that. So no turnovers, and allowing, again, man, just 1 sack. Yeah, nobody had a huge day. There was no big receiving day. There was no big rushing day, but it's those things. Dude, if you can keep this future NFL defense off of your quarterback for 4 freaking quarters, that's got to make you feel good heading into Sunbelt play and this game against Western Michigan. That was awesome, man. So what did you take away from the Herd offense this week?
Well, so I did my rewatch, but I only got through the first half, and I have had a busy week, and I didn't go back and watch the second half. But let me tell you some things that I saw in person and then saw again. We went down and just ran it down their throats with passing and mixing in some runs, and we were running right up the middle on this stout, legendary, according to anybody that you talk to, defense. Again, this is the most expensive college football team that's ever been assembled, and we were just buying time for the quarterback, throwing right exactly where it needed to be, threading the needle on passes. And then Stone Earl did an amazing job of just saying, hey, this is open here. My first read, the announcers hit on it. My first read is not open. And he would look and he would pull it down and run to his left, cut it right up the middle, and get very good yardage. We took it 75 yards, 13 plays, 6 minutes, 46 seconds to start the game. You mentioned it. No one had scored on them. But just to state what we had said before, no team had made it to the red zone against this team in the first 2 games. And that includes our opponent that we're playing next week. And we went down and scored when it was 14-7. We had a very good opportunity, and we'll talk about this in a little bit, to possibly tie the game. Going into halftime, it just looked like our offense, even though we had been shut down on some drives, we were a good offense, and we were giving this mega defense full of future NFL players fits. 1 sack, you mentioned. That 1 sack came in the first half, and it was some kind of, the guy didn't really get beat. It was Bryce Ramsey just immediately engaged with 2 hands and then kind of pushed the guy off and looked for his next person to block, and the person was not there. I don't know where the miscommunication was, but it looks like he's pushing him off either for the center, Osborne, or for a running back to come up and take him. The guy it was a wide open lane to the quarterback at that point, so Earl just had to kind of go down. So it wasn't even a thing like how Mike Green got the sack, where he did an amazing spin move that, has gotten all the praise all across the country. It was just a situation where Ramsey, by some kind of design, although there was miscommunication, engaged with 2 hands and immediately just let him go. Yeah. We had no turnovers. We went 16 of 21 on passing. Earl was getting it done with his legs as well, until he went out with what was heat-related cramping and stuff like that. And it wasn't worth putting him back in because, as we had said, we felt like there was going to be 2, possibly 3 quarterbacks come in. All 3 of them did. Offense just looked really good against this defense.
So it's a big confidence builder, you would hope.
Yeah.
Now, Now, you can't have all that hype come out and be flat against Western Michigan. This is something you got to build off of, right? And that's what we were hoping to see. We were hoping to see some guys go in there, make some freaking plays, feel good about what they were able to do against easily the toughest defense they're going to play the entire season, unless something crazy happens and you end up in the freaking playoff and you match up against one of these teams again, you're not going to see another team like this on your schedule this year. So this has got to be a big confidence builder. This has got to be the game that says, all right, we're ready. No more really feeling our way through. We kind of know who we are a little bit, and it's time to just press forward. Let's talk about defense. Jaden Yates, again, had another great day for the Herd, leads the team in tackles, 7 total tackles, 2 of those solo. J.J. Roberts, Josh Moten both get 5 apiece. Roberts 3 solo, Josh Moten with 2 solo, adds a beautiful interception, by the way. Impact plays for the Herd, 1 interception, 1 sack, 3 tackles for loss. So not a huge day, but again, just as you're facing an all NFL-ish future defense, there's a lot of future NFLers on that offense as well. So these guys were really outmatched at a lot of positions, and they really held their own for the better a half, right? And then until depth just starts to creep in, and also the Buckeye machine wakes up and goes, all right, enough. We've got to impose our will. So this is not just about what Marshall couldn't get done. It's also about how really good this team that we were playing was, and they just turned it on and kind of ran away with it. But for a half, I think that half of football probably earned the respect of a lot of Herd fans and some Buckeye fans too, to think, all right, well, okay. Just like we said, I said that there would be some fans and guys would go, all right, I respect that guy. That guy can play. You can't tell me that they weren't impressed with, how Mike Green was able to get around, their 5-star O-line and get to their quarterback. And, Josh Moten came down with this beautiful interception. Yeah, they see that stuff before, but still, when you see a great play, even I appreciate a great play when our opponents get one on us. I'm like, damn, man, that was dude earned that. That was pretty nice. So overall, a positive day for me, as positive as you can feel about giving almost, 570 yards up and 49 points. I don't feel good about that, but I feel about as good as I can feel about that happening.
Before we get to grades, I just want to say a couple things about the defense. Not only did Green have that amazing play, and you talked about Moten having his amazing play, think about what Eric said when he was on our show and we were on his about Jeremiah Smith, because that's who Moten's interception was against. We heard that he is the best, and not just from him, but other people across the nation have said he's the best freshman wide receiver in the country. Everyone was talking about how he is just built different and how he is physical and everything. Josh Moten blanketed him, took away any part of the field to where all he had was the sideline. And he basically not only had the beautiful play to intercept it, but think about what we're hearing about Jeremiah Smith and his physicality and everything. Moten comes down with the ball and prevents it from being taken out of his hands. So you have to call that an interception. You don't give a referee a chance to say, well, I'm going to give that one to the receiver. Both of them caught it. Nothing like that. Josh Moten, amazing, amazing play.
Yeah, it really was, man. And I'm proud of the dude because, I said we were going to have to go in there and play like they belonged in that game. And they did. They played like they belonged there. They didn't owe anything to Ohio State. Like, hey, man, we appreciate you guys inviting us up for this game. Awesome. No, it was none of that. They went as hard as they could go for as long as they could go until depth just kind of got the best of the Herd. And you expect that even when Ohio State is in a tough game against an inferior opponent, that's the great equalizer for them, because even when they start to tire out, when their opponent starts to tire, they just reload with more 5-stars and more future NFL guys. And now all of a sudden, boom, it is what it is. Real quick before we do get into grades, special teams, Reese Verhoff, no opportunities at a field goal, 2 of 2 on extra points. Duo of punters for the Herd. Alec Clark, 6 punts, 254 yards, 42.3 yard average, 2 touchbacks, 1 inside the 20, and a long of 54. Great day for Alec. Nathan Totten, couple of punts, 90 yards, 45 yard average, 1 inside the 20, and a long of 47. So a great punting day by committee for the Herd. Jordan Houston, just 1 kick return opportunity, went 20 yards. And, of course, the fumble recovery, forced fumble, whatever you want to call it, on the punt coverage team, called back due to a bullshit penalty. I don't care. I've seen it. I've seen it. Whatever. That probably doesn't get called 99% of the time, and it gets called when the Herd makes a play.
Well, now it's time to talk about the refs. And no, we would not have won this game had the refs, called an amazing game. No one's saying that. I will say that the first half would have been a lot closer because, 14-7, and we get the ball inside I think it was at the 6-yard line, but definitely inside the 10. I like our chances to come away with some points there. And the very next play, they went 86 yards untouched, basically, for a rushing touchdown and made it 21-7. By the way, every replay that you watch of that, and I watched it like 5 different times, Sue Agunloye was held to the point where he was where the gap was that the running back went through. His back was to the running back. He was facing the sideline. The guy was holding him up around the collar and maybe even around or on the face mask. You could have called illegal hands to the face. You could have called, holding, whatever you did. It wasn't. And I'm saying if they're going to call ticky-tack stuff, they need to call it on both sides. And, yeah, everybody can say from Ohio State, which, by the way, they were saying the refs were horrible, but in our favor.
Yeah, of course.
They said that touchdown at the end of the half shouldn't have been because he was clearly out. You can't call it on the field, then look at that and say, yes, I can clearly state that guy was out. That's just common sense. But they were like, oh, yeah, that was definitely lined up incorrectly. Do you think that everybody lines up right on the line? If it was, they should have called it immediately. Before, like, as soon as it snaps, like, there goes the flag. But they didn't. I've heard that it got thrown when the ball was in the air. I don't know. I wasn't looking down that way to see it, and the camera never showed definitively when the flag was thrown that I saw. All I do know is if you're going to call something that trivial, I can't tell you how many holds, and I can't tell you how many pass interference situations where they did not call it on Ohio State whatsoever. Would it have changed the outcome of the game? No. But that was about as egregious as I've seen. Someone's half a yard off the line of scrimmage. That doesn't matter, man. The guy botched the daggone punt return, and we picked it up. And who was it? Ian Foster, our man that's down there first on every daggone punt coverage that you're going to see.
So here's the point I'm going to make about that. And since you said this twice in making your point, this play was not going to change the outcome of the game. Agree. That just proves to me that you don't need to call that play.
You don't.
You let it play. You just let it play. This is look, man, nothing against the Herd. We know who we were playing. This was a vastly superior opponent. We know that, dude. This is going to be a playoff team most likely, unless something crazy happens. And then how many times throughout history already have we seen something crazy happen in Ohio State still end up in the playoff? So I got no beef with them. It might sound like I do, but look, you don't need that play. Let them play. Let the kid. We made the play. Why are you getting involved? Why is a referee getting involved? I don't understand that. So, and then for Buckeye fans to say you're 49-14 and you're like, oh, the refs were horrible. You're horrible. Really?
They were.
Of course, you wanted a 49-0 shutout. Well, guess what? It didn't happen. So suck it. Anyway, let's get into some grades. What do you got for primarily Stone Earl, but a trio of quarterbacks that played for the Herd?
Well, so I'm going to give Earl an A minus, and I'm not going to grade the other two because they were coming in late in the game and everything when the game was out of hand, and Cole didn't get a chance to go out there and throw a whole bunch because we were trying to run the clock out and get out of there without any injuries.
Right.
I'm giving Earl himself an A minus. I do want to say right here, a lot of fans in the stadium were talking about how he tripped a bunch of times. So you're going to have to get different cleats on him. Ohio State fans all over, definitely the Ohio podcast, the OHIO podcast, they were talking about how their players slipped. And I guess this has been a recurring thing all season and the previous season. They were talking about people were going to get hurt. So it wasn't just our guys that were slipping. They had a couple. They had a punt return that it looked like they were going to take it to the house, and the guy fell with nobody around him. So I don't think it was Stone Earl that was having the problems. They have complained about this turf, and they're there watching all these home games, and they should know. So don't put it on Stone and our equipment staff. It was the turf.
Yeah, and I've seen people saying that too. I have, talking about how the turf was horrible. But here's the thing. I think Stone won over some Herd fans.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that a lot of those Braylon, Braxton, people that had been spouting off, I want Braylon. They might not have been won over, but they're at least quieting down a little bit, because they're thinking, all right, well, the kid went into Columbus, Ohio and faced a top defense in the country and moved the football, moved them right down the freaking field and to open the game. So, good for him, man. He's fought through 2 hard games the past 2 on the schedule. And now the opportunity is you go into this weekend, you play against Western Michigan, and you really kind of need to light it up a little bit. You can't look, in fairness, you can't come out and do 16 for 21 for $132 and a touchdown. That's not going to help your cause, because they're going to say, well, shit, you did that against Ohio State. You should have been, 250 yards or whatever against Western Michigan. So in fairness, but this is your opportunity to go out, and now it's my leave no doubt moment. I come out and light up Western Michigan, and I got some momentum going in for this Sun Belt Conference slate, and this team is mine now, and all these haters just kind of pipe down. So fair grade. I think he played pretty well considering the environment and what he was able to do, and making something happen when nothing was there. Because one of my biggest gripes the first game, even against Stony Brook, was, man, he's staring down that primary receiver and he's not doing anything else. He's looking straight at the primary receiver. And to hear you say, no, that wasn't there, so he's looking away and picking up whatever yardage he can, that's development, man. That's what I'm hoping to hear. That's awesome.
It looked really good on the replay.
That's great. What do you got for this offense as a whole?
Offense, I've got a B minus. I felt like a couple of penalties. Again, I felt like they were ticky-tack, called against us and not called against the other team. But had a couple of penalties that one took away a first down. The very next play, we had a drop. We ended up having to punt, But if you get that first down, this is our second drive. We score. They score in 2 plays. We come down. We start getting a first down. We start moving the ball down the field. It got called back. So it's just little things like that, not being able to put up full 4 quarters of offense, even though it's against this team, even though we were trying to run the clock out. I'm not dinging them for a bunch. It just wasn't an A offense all game long.
No, it wasn't. I mean, in fairness, your opponent can only count for so much. It's still, at the end of the day, you need to be able to put up 264 is like, but I feel like kind of 300 is that magic number. If you put up over 300 yards against a team like Ohio State, I get it. It's 36 yards, but it just feels different. You scored a couple of times. I think that's awesome. You ain't going to turn me against that at all. 14 points against this team that hadn't given up a red zone appearance yet. Big time props to the Herd
99
offense.
Yards Western Michigan did the entire game. 99 yards is what they got all game.
And the Herd goes 75 or whatever on the opening drive. Look, and the last thing about this offense for me, huge shout out to that offensive line for protecting our quarterbacks, all 3 of them, for protecting our quarterbacks, picking up those blocking schemes, all of it, man. Huge shout out. They do not get the love that they otherwise normally do or otherwise should, but it was magnified against this Ohio State team.
I've heard a lot of fans on social media and online and on the call-in show that we had on the recap. There's been a lot of praise early on for this offensive line. And a lot of people have said what seemed to be a negative last year is a very noticeable strength this year. They've been given a lot of praise. And all 5 have started all 3 games now. It's been the same starters those first 3 games.
See, I think that's wild that, folks would be like, well, that was a little bit of a negative last year. And it wasn't perfect. We know it wasn't perfect.
Yeah.
We saw the inopportune holding call and all that kind of stuff. But this was a line that had 2 offensive linemen, 2 NFL offensive linemen on it last year. And yeah, we hit the portal hard. It was a point of emphasis. We knew, we talked about that. And anybody that's listened to us know we talked about that. But we still didn't know what it was going to look like. And you have this monumental task in front of you. And they more than rose to the occasion, because we could be sitting here saying, well, we gave up 4 sacks on the day, but, Boggs was saying, hey, there's 3 first-round NFL picks on this defensive line.
Right.
And if you would have talked about all that and then said only 4 sacks, you would have said only 4 sacks, only one. Amazing job.
Well, so what I think, too, is Coach Daigie's offense. There's been a lot of chatter online as this is not an air raid. We are getting the ball out so quickly that we're not giving someone an opportunity to sack us. So it is helping this offensive line. I think we have the right players in the right positions with the right scheme to protect our quarterbacks.
Yeah, that's good. That's huge. That is super huge. So let's move into defense. What do you got for the defense this week?
I've got an even C. We gave up a lot of chunk plays to future NFL players.
Yeah.
And a couple of those, like I said, there was a hold. They could have clearly brought that back. There was a flag. They took the flag away. It was one of these is like, when are these jet engines going to show that they can run faster than our guys? And they did at times. But we also did not get killed 70-0. We didn't, just let them march up and down the field. We had a couple of stops to make them punt. We had that interception. Mike Green had a huge 3rd down sack that made them punt. It was kind of hey, we gave up a lot of points and a lot of yards in big chunk plays, and then look how well they played at other times. So I'm putting right in the middle of C.
I don't think that's unfair. I think they played pretty well for as long as they could match up with who they could. I don't know how to say it. You know what I mean? Because we weren't evenly matched anywhere.
Right.
I mean, anywhere.
Yeah.
Even the best player on the defense, which in my opinion is Mike Green.
Mm-hmm.
And there's not too many people that are right below him. I mean, there are a couple guys that are right below him, but he's still, to me, the best player on the team right now on the defense. Even he was slightly outmatched because, these are guys that are more game ready. That's who they recruit. They recruit guys that are ready to go, and then they have the best of the best of the best developing those guys.
Mm-hmm.
I think they put up one hell of an effort. I'm not mad at you for a C at all. Mm-hmm. I know that for a half, if we could just limit this to a half, man, that was a great overall effort. And then it just got out of hand. It is what it is. You can't ever be happy about 569 yards allowed and 49 points. You're never going to be happy.
Yeah, it was my hardest grade because, knee-jerk reaction, I wanted to go lower. I wanted to do like D+ or C- or something like that. But then you start thinking about, the majority of those yards just being on a handful of plays.
Yeah.
And, again, when you go do the rewatch, it's a blatant hold. And that's the only one you could see on the replay. There could have been another one. But, I mean, it was right where the gap was. You don't have that hold. We're not talking about somebody on the other side of the line. We're talking about the hole that the running back went through, and then he was untouched, for 86 yards. So it's stuff like that if those get called back because, they call the holds that they should have, or the pass interference doesn't get called, because they're letting Ohio State's backs play, let ours play. it could have been slightly different. We could have had a lower scored, definitely take away some of these 80-yard runs, 60-yard runs, things like that. If they get called back, you have not 569 yards you're giving up. Maybe it's only 42 points or 35 points or something like that. Yes, that's nitpicking, but that's why I'm directly in the middle of the C.
Yeah. Last thing on defense, super big shout out to true sophomore linebacker Jaden Yates.
Yeah.
Three games into this young season, first time starter, this year for the Herd. I said it a couple weeks ago. I think the linebacking unit answered some questions. I'm going to take it a step further. I think what we're seeing in real time with Jaden Yates is pretty special. This kid is, dude, he is freaking built different. He's a Yates, So if you're that Mac era, fan that remembers Max, this is not a surprise to you, And I think as the season continues to evolve, obviously, as long as he stays healthy, he's just going to get better and better and better. I mean, when's the last time we saw the real-time development, like in game, from a guy like this? I kind of felt that way about Rasheen Ali because we didn't when he was moving into his first year as a starter, we didn't know who he was. He was like, who's this guy? And then bang, 4 TDs out of the gate. And we were like, okay. And then every week it was just better and better. It kind of feels like one of those scenarios where you think, when's the drop off going to happen? And it just never did. He just got better and better and better and developed every week. I think it's special, man. I super shout out to him. He's had a great season so far. So who do you got? What do you got for the special teams?
I've got an A- on that. There were no real huge negatives or anything. A couple of things was on that 54-yard punt. It was either by design that way or it got lucky because it was a flat ball that rolled and everything. But it had a lot of top spin on it, and it was side. With him being a Aussie style kicker, I don't really know that you can say that wasn't planned because the way that he kicked it, it wasn't near the sideline. It wasn't near the player that could make a fielding try on it. It was just, he kicked it with a lot of top roll. So I'm willing to give him that, but they almost let a punt return go back to the house. And the guy fell down in open field, or he may have scored. So I'm giving that one small ding to make it an A-, but we punted amazing on our net. We fielded a botched punt return that we had inside the 7-yard line. So a lot of the things that we did, that we had the opportunity, we did pretty well.
Yeah, I would have to agree. No punt return opportunities, only one kick return opportunity. So you got something. Punted really well. We knew that was going to have to be a strong suit. Great bounce back game for Alec Clark after kind of a disastrous game against Virginia Tech. The 2 worst punts he had led to hokey points and all that kind of stuff. So great for him for bouncing back in a huge environment, very, very intimidating environment. And again, Herd special teams down there making plays, scoring opportunities, like all these freaking things that we've seen early in this season. So great grade. Coaches, what do you got?
I got an A. We had a great game plan to come down there. It was clear when we were driving the ball down 75 yards against a team that's not letting anybody in the red zone or the end zone. We came out with a tremendous game plan. It was by design that Stone Earl knew that if his first read was not open, he could run up the middle. We seemed to be mixing in running plays when we needed to. Defense, even though they give up, you got Josh Moten playing the way that he did. I just felt like it was a good game plan. The best that you could hope for when people were predicting things like, I said 41-14. I think you said 45-14. It ended up 49-14. And, we were calling it a lot closer than everybody in the country was. Mm-hmm. And we came up and just about everybody said that was a great effort against Ohio State. Mm-hmm. So I give them an A.
Yeah, I'm going to give them a pretty solid grade too, man. I think they did a great job. And of course, most of the time everybody's going to point straight to Huff and say, the coaches, and just, kind of pin it all on Huff. But I'm going to super shout out to Ralph Street, because Mike Green's been doing a phenomenal job. The defensive line has been doing a phenomenal job this year, and that falls on Ralph Street, right? Dobson is going to get some props from me too, because these wide receivers have been making great plays. Just need to clean up those drops. That's kind of reared its ugly head a couple of times and really kind of bad against Virginia Tech. But he's been doing a great job with these guys, and especially in a position of need in a basically revamped room. So it's not a lot of guys that he had familiarity with coming in here. So he's done a really, really good job. Those two guys particularly are sticking out to me from what their respective position groups have done. Also, special teams coach Jonathan Galland has been they're just doing really well, especially down there on punt coverage and stuff. So shout out to those guys. How about the fans for you this week?
I give them an A. We traveled up there pretty well. It was spread out the way they do it. They don't group you in one section, so it was hard to kind of hear how loud everybody was because it was spread out. But there were a bunch of us. I've seen, I guess, between 4,000 and 5,000, and Christian Spears said that there were 5,000, that were there. A lot of fans traveled up, even though you expect to get beaten by a lot. They made a good trip from it or out of it, and I saw a lot of people that traveled pretty far to come to this.
Awesome.
So a lot of people that that we haven't seen in a while made a huge trip up there.
Good, man. I'm glad. I'd seen that number too, 5K floating around, and that's pretty respectable because, first of all, Ohio State's not going to make very many tickets available for you at all. Mm-hmm. But good. I tell you what, I look at things differently. You look at the kind of the attendance at the game, and I look at things like how is everybody reacting on social media during the game and after the game.
I try,
but I felt that it was more positive than I thought.
It was
even in an ass whooping. I mean, let's call it what it was. This is an ass whooping. 49-14 is an ass whooping. If we handed a 49-14 beat down on somebody, that's what we'd be saying, right? So the herd, went behind the woodshed and got taken care of real quick, and fans were still pretty positive. Like Stone Earl won over some people. Like people are even higher on certain members of this defense and think that I dig it, man. I dig it. I think it was an overall pretty good week in a loss. Overall, what you got?
Overall, I'm going to go with an A just because of the momentum that I feel like we're going to take from this and head into our final game of the non-conference. But I feel like this gave us the confidence going up against this team to say we can win the Sun Belt Conference if we're playing, able to drive down and score on two really good drives against this defense. We can do it against the Sun Belt.
Yeah, I would have to agree. I think it's like I said, this is about as good as you can feel in a loss. This is a playoff team. Now you know exactly what it's going to take to compete against those guys. You win the playoff bid at some point. This is what you're going to have to go up against.
Yeah.
And you got to be ready for that. And I'm not saying that this team or anybody on this team or anything like that is going to find themselves in a playoff game. Certainly hope they do. Mm-hmm. But these guys got a taste of what it takes to compete against guys of that caliber and teams of that caliber. Who's your offensive MVP this week?
I'm going to go with Elijah Metcalf, even though I really want to go with Stone Earl. But I have to give Elijah Metcalf his due. He was targeted 8 times. He came down with the ball 8 times against Ohio State.
That's pretty good.
And he got that touchdown that was a circus catch in the back of the end zone to be able to get a foot down. But the specialist shout out that I can to Stone Earl for the efforts that he had.
Yeah, I'm going to give mine to Stone Earl because he did play a great game considering, took what was there, was able to make some plays. It wasn't the most beautiful day in the yardage category, but hey, man, 16 of 21 ain't that damn bad. You're talking about 5 incompletions on the entire day. I think most of the time you'll take that. But if that stat line happened to read 16 of 21 for $190 or 210, then you'd feel you would look at that completely differently. I feel like so. Good pick for Elijah Metcalf. I'm just going to give Stone Earl his due. I haven't been overly positive on the guy. I haven't been really negative on the guy, but dude, shout out to him. He went in Columbus and freaking competed, and that's all you can ask for. as a Herd fan. Who's your defensive MVP?
I'm going to go with Josh Moten on that amazing interception that he had. He had 5 tackles, had one of them a solo tackle, and that interception was just amazing.
Yeah,
So,
I co-sign that as well. I think Josh Moten's the guy this week, and good for him getting matched up against this all-everything wide receiver, and he showed not on my watch. Now, the guy had a pretty good day. I think he had 3 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. But if you're the bee's knees, you would expect that, right? Because they have so many other weapons that they, you know what I mean?
that one touchdown was 53 yards. So besides it, and I know you can't just say, well, because he still got it, but without that, we had 2 receptions for 17 yards.
Yeah, and you're not taking away what you're still giving it to the guy, but yeah, 2 more receptions for just 17 yards. Yeah. I think you'll take that. That's pretty good. Special teams, the MVP, if you got one.
I'm going with Ian Foster again. You could give it to just anybody as far as like the punting, say that duo punting well. But Ian Foster being down there makes him Johnny on the spot to do things like come up with that ball, because he hustles so much to be down there. I'm giving it to him.
Yeah, I think I am too, with a special shout out to the duo of punters, Totten and Clark. Great day and a great effort in a big time environment, right? The Herd needed that. Any shanks, anything like that could have been more disastrous than what the scoreboard already said. But Foster has just been every week. Mm-hmm. It's every week, man.
Every play. Every play.
Yeah. We're talking about him doing something to create an opportunity for the Herd offense. And I haven't talked this much about a special teamer since Cody Carter was playing. Yeah. And that dude was so fun to watch on special teams. And it's refreshing to talk about, to see a guy who has embraced his role in that craft right there in special teams. And he's like, dude, I'll just go be a difference maker. Hell with it. I don't see this as a slight. I'm just going to go be the best freaking special teams player in the Sun Belt Conference that will get no shine outside of this show. You know what I mean? Because they're not going to put a guy that's a gunner on for special teams player of the year or anything like that.
Yeah.
So shout out to him though. You got any final words before we take it out of here?
No, take it out of here. Yeah, we got to do around the Herd.
Oh, so that's right. I'm sorry.
Yeah, let's do that real quick. Volleyball. They swept the UNCG Greensboro tournament this weekend, beating Georgetown 3-1, Tennessee Tech 3-0, and UNC Greensboro 3-0. The home team beat them 3-0. They travel to Coastal to kick off the Sun Belt slate. That will be Friday at 6 and Saturday at 2. Both of those are on ESPN+.
Cool, man. Yeah, man, it's time to get going. Let's get the out of conference over. Let's make some noise in the Sun Belt.
Softball, they beat the absolute golden bear poop out of West Virginia Tech as part of fall ball, reported 28-4.
Oh, come on, man.
They host West Virginia Wesleyan Sunday at 1 p.m. So if you got nothing to do this Sunday, after church, after brunch, after whatever, go over to the Dot and hopefully watch us put up another 28 spot. Women's golf, they finished 6th out of 11 at the Tot Hill Farm Tournament. Olivia Cochan, part of a 5-way tie for 10th at 6 over. She had a 1 over, a 4 over, and a 1 over in her 3 rounds. Wow. Monday and Tuesday, they will be in Indianapolis for the Butler Fall Invitational. Men's golf, they have the Virtues Intercollegiate on Friday and Saturday. Bowling Green is the host team of that. So they'll be up in, I can't remember the name of the town, but it's not where Bowling Green is. It's a little bit, out from there. Swim and dive, Saturday at 11 a.m. So anybody that wants to go over there before tailgating starts, their green and white meet will be. So head on into the cam on the concourse, go right in. You can watch a little bit of that before you get your tailgate on.
Cool, man.
Women's soccer, they had a draw against Georgia State 1-1 on Sunday. Ended up with a goal a little bit later by Bailey Fisher to get that tie. and they are 2-3-1 on the season so far, and 0-0-1 in Sunbelt, as that was our first game in the conference. They will be at Texas State on Thursday at 8 p.m. That's Eastern time because they're playing in Central time. And they will be home versus Troy at 1 p.m. on Sunday. The good thing that I need to tell you about that, we'll go right into the men's soccer. Between women's and men's soccer, it's a doubleheader, but there's time in between. They're doing what they did last year, and Herdtoberfest will be there. Again, there will be events to do for the kids on the field between the game. They'll have some different stations set up. The coolest one is Steve Cotton will have a wood carving station over there. He does that and does it very well. So if you've got something that you want to do this Sunday, a great place to be would be at the 2 soccer matches and do that Herdtoberfest in between.
Hey man, let me hold on before you move on. Let's quick recap.
Yep.
So now you can do Saturday swim and dive, go tailgate, watch a little baseball, go tailgate, football game. Next day, women's soccer, Herdtoberfest, men's soccer. Is that what you're saying?
Softball's at 1 too,
and softball
on Sunday.
Crap.
Yeah. So really good weekend that you can fit a lot of different things in. You might not be able to stay for all of everything. You might not be there for the entire swim meet. You won't be there for the entire baseball scrimmage, but you do have a little bit of everything that you can take the kids to.
If you see a guy walking out of the cam wrapped in a towel, don't say anything. Don't say, it's not me.
And finally, men's soccer, they beat South Carolina 2-1 on Friday. We were up in Columbus and trying to watch that as, we were at the different events they were doing Friday evening. They ended up getting goals by Lineker Rodriguez dos Santos and Alexander Sterngard, and that goal gave him the Offensive Player of the Week for the Sun Belt. And then, as you mentioned earlier, they just earlier tonight beat number 22 VCU 1-0, and that was another goal by Lineker Rodriguez dos Santos. He had one early in the match, but they had called offside, so they waved off the goal, and then later he got one. And, man, the defense just really came to play in this game. Really came to play. They will be hosting Old Dominion on Sunday at 4:30 for that second part of that women's and men's soccer doubleheader.
Cool, man. That's going to be that's a cool weekend. That's a lot of unique stuff. I remember last year, the big weekend was the Virginia Tech football game, the UCF soccer game, and that was awesome. Yeah. But this is a different kind of thing. You can really get an app sampler of Herd Athletics this weekend if you really want to do it. You can't get a full size meal of everything, but if you want to, you can hit it all a little bit and not miss out on having any type of you'll have all the fun, that you would normally have if you just stood around and tailgated, because you can still tailgate when it's time to tailgate, but see everything else. That's so cool.
Well, that does it for Around the Herd, and I don't have anything else. So unless you do, I'm going to take us out of here.
I got one thing. I'd like to remind everybody that it's today is September 25th, which means it's the anniversary of the first victory following the 1970 plane crash. The Young Thundering Herd took the field at Fairfield Stadium against Xavier on September 25th, 1971, 53 years ago, to earn the Herd its first victory. On the final play of the game, Terry Gardner found the end zone. The picture out there is legendary. That's what for me will forever rank as the #1 victory in Herd football history. I don't care who we beat from here until the end of time. That is the #1 victory. I just wanted to remind everybody that 53 years ago today, September 25th, 1971, charted the course that finds us right here, right now, and Russ and I on the Thundercast talking about Herd football. So a special day in Herd history, and I didn't want to let it pass without talking about it. So now, Russ, you can take us out of here.
Yeah, whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Cam, whether you see us at the tailgate, where KD and I will both be there for what we feel like is a massive weekend. No matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go Herd.
Go herd it. It's the ThunderCast. Stick around. You'll have a Western Michigan preview coming up just in a couple of days. Later.